Explosions thunder across Yemen as Israeli warplanes unleash powerful strikes on Houthi strongholds. But in Gaza, Hamas leaders walk away unharmed from an Israeli assassination attempt. Tonight, the Middle East braces for a dangerous escalation. Is this just the beginning of a wider war? Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we bring you breaking developments from the Middle East that could reshape the balance of power in the region. In the last 24 hours, Israel has carried out a series of strikes targeting Houthi positions in Yemen. According to military sources, the attacks focused on missile depots, drone workshops, and command centers allegedly used by the Houthis to threaten Israeli and international shipping routes in the Red Sea. At the same time, reports confirm that Israel attempted a targeted strike on Hamas leadership figures inside Gaza. This comes after months of intelligence buildup, suggesting that Israel was seeking to decapitate Hamas's top command. Yet, despite precision airstrikes, the Hamas leadership survived, with several members reportedly moving to secure underground facilities moments before the attack. The timing of these two operations raises serious questions. Why would Israel strike both the Houthis in Yemen and Hamas in Gaza within such a short time frame? Analysts believe it reflects a growing Israeli strategy to push back against Iranian-backed groups simultaneously, sending a message not just to local adversaries, but also to Tehran itself. In today's video, we'll break this down in 10 key sections: the strikes themselves, the immediate aftermath, the political reactions, regional implications, and what could come next. So stay tuned, because this story is developing fast, and the consequences could be massive. Israel's strikes on Yemen mark one of the most direct escalations in its confrontation with the Houthis. For years, the Houthis have been firing missiles and drones into Saudi Arabia, and more recently, targeting commercial shipping routes in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. These maritime routes are critical not only for regional trade, but also for global energy supplies. According to Israeli defense officials, the strikes focused on at least 3 key targets near Sana'a and the Houthi-controlled port of Hodeidah. Witnesses on the ground reported massive fireballs lighting up the night sky as precision-guided munitions struck suspected missile storage facilities. Satellite images released after the strike show large plumes of smoke and destroyed infrastructure, indicating the attacks were carefully planned and executed. Israel claims the Houthis were preparing long-range missile systems that could potentially threaten Eilat, Israel's southern port city, or even Israeli naval assets in the Red Sea. This is particularly concerning given recent reports that the Houthis had acquired more advanced Iranian-made drones capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers. For the Houthis, this marks a new chapter. While they have long been in conflict with Saudi Arabia and the UAE, being directly struck by Israel places them squarely in the wider Iran-Israel confrontation. In response, Houthi officials vowed retaliation, claiming Israel had crossed a red line and warning that Israeli ships will no longer be safe in the Red Sea. Parallel to the strikes in Yemen, Israel also carried out targeted strikes in Gaza, reportedly aimed at eliminating Hamas's senior leadership. According to intelligence leaks, the operation targeted a meeting place where several high-ranking Hamas figures were believed to be gathered. Drones and fighter jets launched precision-guided missiles at the site, triggering massive explosions that shook parts of Gaza City. Initial reports suggested multiple casualties, but as the dust settled, Hamas issued a statement confirming that none of its top leaders were killed. Sources indicate that at least 3 senior figures had relocated to secure underground tunnels just minutes before the strikes began. This near miss highlights the sophistication of Hamas's tunnel networks, which allow leaders to move undetected and survive repeated assassination attempts. For Israel, the failed assassination is a bitter pill. Eliminating Hamas leadership has been a central objective for decades, with mixed results. While Israel has successfully targeted figures like Ahmed Yassin and Abdel Aziz al-Rantisi in the past, today's Hamas leadership has adapted by dispersing and using underground facilities to avoid detection. Nevertheless, Israel views the operation as a partial success, arguing that it disrupted Hamas's decision-making process and demonstrated its ability to penetrate Gaza's defenses. Hamas, meanwhile, framed its survival as a victory, declaring that Israel's attempts to silence its leadership would only fuel further resistance. This survival sends a powerful message across the region. Despite Israel's military edge, its enemies remain resilient. The decision to strike both the Houthis in Yemen and Hamas in Gaza on the same day is no coincidence. Military analysts suggest that Israel is pursuing a multi-front deterrence strategy, signaling to Iran and its allies that it is willing to confront threats simultaneously. In recent months, Israel has faced escalating challenges on multiple borders. Hezbollah in Lebanon has increased its rocket attacks. Hamas and Islamic Jihad continue to fire from Gaza. The Houthis, with Iranian support, are expanding their range, threatening Red Sea shipping and possibly even Israel's southern cities. For Israeli decision makers, striking two groups in different locations sends a powerful message: Israel will not be intimidated, and it retains the operational capacity to hit enemies far beyond its borders. This also ties into Israel's broader diplomatic strategy. By hitting the Houthis, Israel aligns itself with Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who have long battled Houthi forces. By striking Hamas, Israel continues its long-standing campaign to weaken Gaza's leadership and reassure its own population of its defensive strength. Yet, this strategy carries risks. By escalating against two fronts at once, Israel may invite coordinated retaliation. Iran could choose to activate Hezbollah more aggressively, while the Houthis might expand their maritime attacks. This could spiral into a wider regional conflict that drags in not just Israel and Iran, but also Gulf states and possibly even international powers dependent on Middle Eastern trade routes. The strikes sparked immediate reactions across the Middle East. In Yemen, Houthi-controlled media broadcast footage of the destruction, vowing revenge and framing the attacks as proof of Israel's alliance with the Saudi coalition. Crowds gathered in Sana'a, chanting anti-Israel slogans and pledging to escalate resistance. In Gaza, Hamas celebrated its survival as a symbolic victory. Spokespersons declared that Israel had failed to eliminate their leadership, portraying the strike as desperation rather than strength. Social media across the Palestinian territories lit up with hashtags celebrating the resilience of Hamas leaders. Meanwhile, Arab governments responded cautiously. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, long locked in conflict with the Houthis, refrained from openly supporting Israel's strikes, but quietly welcomed any blow against their Yemeni adversaries. Egypt, a traditional mediator in the Gaza conflict, urged restraint, warning that the region could slide into uncontrolled escalation. Iran's reaction was sharpest. Tehran condemned the strikes as acts of aggression against the resistance axis, warning that Israel would face consequences. Iranian officials accused Israel of destabilizing the Red Sea and vowed to strengthen support for both the Houthis and Hamas. On the international stage, the United States publicly backed Israel's right to self-defense but urged de-escalation. The European Union issued a similar statement, expressing concern over maritime security in the Red Sea. Russia and China, however, criticized the strikes, accusing Israel of overreach. This patchwork of reactions highlights how Israel's actions are reshaping alliances and fueling tensions across the Middle East. Military experts are analyzing the strikes for what they reveal about Israel's evolving capabilities. The Yemeni operation demonstrated Israel's long-range strike capacity. Hitting targets hundreds of kilometers away from its borders requires not only advanced fighter jets like the F-35, but also extensive intelligence coordination, possibly with allies in the Gulf or even the U.S. The precision of the strikes suggests Israel had detailed intelligence on Houthi facilities. This could involve satellite surveillance, cyber infiltration, or even human assets inside Yemen. For Israel to hit missile depots and drone workshops so effectively, the intelligence must have been timely and accurate. The Gaza operation highlights Israel's persistent challenge with targeted assassinations. Despite advanced surveillance and armed drones, Hamas's tunnel networks continue to provide a protective shield. Analysts argue that while Israel can inflict damage, fully eliminating Hamas leadership may remain an elusive goal without a large-scale ground operation, something Israel has avoided due to high costs and international backlash. Another key takeaway is the coordination of the two strikes. Conducting simultaneous operations on separate fronts demonstrates Israel's readiness for multi-theater warfare. This is significant at a time when Israeli military planners fear a regional war involving Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and potentially even militias in Iraq and Syria. In short, the strikes show strength, but also highlight Israel's ongoing struggle to fully neutralize adversaries who are adaptive, decentralized, and deeply embedded in civilian populations. In Gaza, the survival of Hamas leadership may have major consequences. For years, Israel's strategy has been to degrade Hamas through airstrikes, targeted killings, and blockades. But the inability to eliminate top leaders reinforces the narrative within Gaza that Hamas remains unbroken despite overwhelming Israeli firepower. This strengthens Hamas politically, both inside Gaza and across the wider Palestinian movement. The fact that its leaders survived while civilians once again bore the brunt of destruction fuels anger, resentment, and renewed support for armed resistance. It also undermines moderate voices within Palestinian politics, weakening the Palestinian Authority and strengthening hardliners. For ordinary Gazans, the latest strikes mean more suffering. Already struggling with shortages of food, fuel, and medicine, residents now brace for further escalation. Families crowd into shelters, fearing renewed bombardments, while humanitarian organizations warn of a worsening crisis. Israel's challenge is that while it can inflict damage, it cannot fully eliminate Hamas without a costly ground invasion. But such an operation would risk high casualties, international condemnation, and potentially ignite unrest across the Arab world. Thus, Gaza remains trapped in a cycle. Israel strikes, Hamas survives, and the population suffers in between. The latest events reinforce this grim pattern, with little sign of change on the horizon. The strikes on Houthis have direct implications far beyond Yemen. The Red Sea is one of the world's most important maritime routes, connecting Europe to Asia through the Suez Canal. Billions of dollars in trade, including vital energy supplies, flow through these waters every day. The Houthis have already disrupted this route by targeting oil tankers, container ships, and even U.S. Navy vessels. If their threats to target Israeli or allied ships escalate, global shipping insurance rates could spike, raising the cost of trade and fueling economic instability worldwide. Israel's decision to hit Houthi missile and drone sites directly signals that it is willing to intervene militarily to protect these routes. However, this could also make Israeli-linked vessels prime targets. The Houthis, supported by Iran, could expand their campaign using asymmetric tactics such as small boat attacks, underwater mines, and longer-range missiles. For Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, Israel's actions may be quietly welcome. Both nations have fought bitter wars against the Houthis, suffering from drone and missile barrages. But for global powers like the US, China, and Europe, The concern is less about Israel's involvement and more about the risk of the Red Sea becoming another flashpoint in the wider Iran-Israel confrontation. Simply put, the strikes not only shake the Middle East, they carry ripple effects that could impact global trade and energy security. The simultaneous strikes on Yemen and Gaza raise fears of a broader regional conflict. Israel's adversaries are not isolated groups, but part of what Tehran calls the axis of resistance, a network of Iran-backed militias stretching from Lebanon to Iraq, Syria, Gaza, and Yemen. By striking Houthis and Hamas on the same day, Israel risks triggering coordinated retaliation across multiple fronts. Hezbollah in Lebanon could escalate rocket fire, drawing Israel into a northern war. Militias in Iraq and Syria could target U.S. bases, dragging Washington deeper into the conflict. The Houthis could expand their naval campaign, targeting Red Sea shipping. Hamas, though weakened, could rally Palestinian factions into a broader uprising. For Iran, the strikes offer an opportunity to demonstrate leadership of this resistance axis. Tehran may respond by increasing weapons shipments, deploying advisors, or greenlighting more aggressive attacks by its proxies. For Israel, the nightmare scenario is a multi-front war stretching its military thin. Though Israel is technologically advanced, fighting Hezbollah in the north, Hamas in Gaza, Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Syria and Iraq simultaneously would be unprecedented. Diplomatic efforts may slow escalation, but the risk is clear. The strikes could set off a chain reaction that pulls the entire region into a dangerous spiral with global consequences. The events of the past 24 hours highlight the fragile and explosive nature of the Middle East. Israel's decision to strike the Houthis in Yemen while simultaneously targeting Hamas leaders in Gaza underscores its determination to confront threats on multiple fronts. Yet, while the strikes caused significant damage, they also revealed enduring challenges. Hamas leadership remains intact, and the Houthis are vowing retaliation. The immediate question is whether this is the start of a larger conflict or a calculated message designed to deter Israel's adversaries. Either way, the implications are enormous for Gaza, for Red Sea trade, for regional stability, and for the broader confrontation between Israel and Iran. What happens next depends on the responses of the Houthis, Hamas, and Iran. If they choose escalation, the Middle East could slide into a dangerous new war. If restraint prevails, there may still be space for backchannel diplomacy. For now, the region and the world watches anxiously. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into global events. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, stay informed and stay safe.